afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for Hamish to invite me along. A bit of background as well to me is I live in Worcester. I live just across the river. I lived here for about 20 years. Before that I lived in Fleet in Hampshire, down south. I chose to live here. I moved up here, I was in a band. We busking around France, and a guy from university lived up here, and just it seemed like a nice place. A friend was at university here, so settled here, and then married the bass player's sister, and then I've been here ever since. So both of my kids go to Christopher Whitehead School across the river, just about to finish there, one of them. I've been in marketing for 20 plus years in technology. I work for a kind of cloud service, managed services companies, kind of network and hosting, that kind of thing. About 1,000 people in Europe. I'm head of marketing there, so I've kind of got that marketing bit to what I do. A bit more time on my hands since the kids have got a bit older, and really have a passion for stuff that Joel was talking about Worcester's got so much potential. It's got such a fantastic, innovative past of all the things that have been created. I've written a blog recently that you kind of shared, it just blows my mind, all the amazing stuff that's happened in Worcester, from 30 to 40,000 people in the glove making industry, to inventing Worcestershire sauce, to combi boilers, to all sorts of things that's come out of Worcester over the years. And I just think, I look at my kind of kids' future and what they think about the place that they live in, and a lot of them just don't realise what's happened here or the potential that's got, and I want them to feel that about where they live, and I want Joel to want to stay here, and I want there to be opportunities for you to be here, because I agree with everything that you said, and it would be a shame if we lost a load of students who wanted to live here and were ambitious for their own future not to stay here, because I've never worked in the place where I've lived. I work out of Gloucester at the moment, but I commute to London from Birmingham on the Virgin train quite often. I work in Manchester, I work at home, and it would be great to have a place in Worcester that I can come to when I'm working at home, instead of working at home, come and share ideas with people here, bring some of my experience from the things that I do in my day job, but also the fact that my kids are here and that kind of thing, and bring it together in a bit of a melting pot of people together. So the reason Hamish got in touch was Worcester Soup. Bit of background to that, I'll try and be brief. But a year ago I saw an article on the BBC with the headline, "Can Soup Change the World?" which I just saw that in looking through social media, and it was like, what's that headline all about? I looked it up, and BBC World had done a great article on Detroit Soup, and a bit of background to Detroit Soup. They've been going 6 years. It's an idea that's developed from a group of friends, very similar to this. It started on a Super Bowl weekend with pizza and beer, so very similar actually. They got together, it was an artist community, so it was a bunch of artists who wanted to fund arts projects. So they got together with their beer and pizza, and they stood up and told each other about what they were after and how they could achieve it. From that, they developed over time this idea of Detroit Soup. It was taken from an idea in Chicago. Amy, who's developed the idea and runs it globally now, is a DJ. She had moved away from Detroit, and then through family circumstances had moved back to Detroit later on, just at the point when Detroit crashed. The car manufacturers were closing down, people were deserting Detroit. It was like a ghost town, the Wild West, houses boarded up, and it had lost its kind of soul and its community. And she went back there, meeting a load of her friends and new people she was engaged with, being a DJ, and wanted to stay there. So although it wasn't fantastic and there wasn't the culture that she wanted it to be, there was no barrier to them making it up and making the culture whatever they wanted it to be. And I see that in Worcester, that there's kind of no barrier to the culture being whatever we want it to be, by just figuring out what that is and just thinking about this event. And the kind of headline was what Worcester wants, or was I think it's kind of the compelling vision that joins us all together. So there's written on there is a really couple of words, a vision that kind of pulls people together around a common idea. I think having that kind of connected sense is kind of what you need. So back to Detroit Soup, what they came up with was really simple, and it's that kind of guiding principles that have really worked and meant that it grow. It's kind of like open source software in that they've kind of set the rules and they've written a manual on how to run the events, and they've shared it worldwide, open for anybody to use free of charge. And what it is it's a format for a community event. So they figured out over the years of how to engage people in a process of sharing ideas that can make a difference to their community. So what they came up with was like Dragon's Den in the community. So it's 4 minutes for 4 questions for 4 projects. And they figured that out over time because 10 was too much and it bored people and it went on too long. So they've kind of spent a while figuring it out. So they had 4 projects, 4 minutes, 4 questions, $5 on the door. People pay the $5, they bring food to share, they call it a potluck dinner. So people just bring it. We don't have a word for that in the UK, it's really annoying. Like buffet or picnic, I don't know, it's not the same. But potluck dinner, people bring food to share, their beer. And people pitch, people listen to what they've got to say, then they share dinner together, and then they talk about the ideas, and then people vote, practice democracy and voting the ones that they think are the best, count the votes, and then all the money goes from the door to the person who won on that day, and they walk off with the money. So that's the simple idea, and it's the simpleness of the simplicity of the idea that's mean that it's grown in the way it has, and it's grown worldwide. So I picked it up last year. The BBC article said, why don't you start one in your city? I looked around, there were 3 in the UK. There wasn't one anywhere near here. There wasn't one in Birmingham, although I thought that's weird, it's a big city, maybe there. So that weekend I just set up a website and a Twitter account and said, well, let's just do it in Worcester. I didn't involve friends and family in it. I just thought I'd kind of crowdsource the people who wanted to be involved. So I just put the idea on the website. It was a simple page that said, there's this thing called Detroit Soup, look at the videos, see what you think. And over time, I had a form on there to tell us if you want to be involved. I met a few people who wanted to be involved that have now formed the basis of a little committee of people. And then there's another bunch of people who wanted to get involved but couldn't give any more time. And we just started doing it. So we started in September, was the first one. We had about 70 people there. Raised about 350 quid for the project that won on the night, which was a football team for kids with Asperger's. We had a big community choir who sang on the night, because you have an artist spot or somebody talk about it. So we've done it every quarter. We're committed to do it every quarter. Gives enough time to give ideas and that kind of thing. We did our 4th one yesterday, which was great. It's really good. We had an 11-year-old kid called Phoebe who won £300 to put on an event to raise awareness for the fact that she's got a really good education because she lives around here, but kids in refugee camps don't. And she wanted to put on an event, kind of back to school thing, to raise awareness and funds for that. And the community appreciated that and wanted to vote for it. So yeah, I just wanted to get something going because I thought it was a really good idea. So I kind of committed to keep doing it and see what happens. Part of it for me as well is just getting to know the place that I live. So I didn't grow up here. My schoolmates are in Farnham and Guildford and Fleet and that kind of stuff. And I'd had kids and they're integrated into the school. And you know, my wife's family, there's quite a lot of them, so I'm quite self-sufficient in their family. But then when the kids are old, I thought I want to know more of what goes on in the city and find out. So for me it's been a journey of seeing what's going on. So I spoke to the council, I've just through the Twitter account you pick up Worcestershire Hour and you see all the people going through that. So I've had meetings with the council. I met somebody earlier on who runs a charity called YSS, a youth charity in the city, Carden Street Cafe. She's been really supportive. I met a guy who started Worcester Music Festival. He's been really helpful, does sound engineering on the day. All sorts of people in different parts of the city, and every month I'm finding new people and connecting people. And I think overall the thing is just the central idea and the simplicity, even before we did the first event, was an excuse for people to talk about, wouldn't it be great if we did this thing and talk together. And I see the Kiln is a similar thing. It's a really good excuse to get a bunch of people together and say, wouldn't it be great if we did this thing. So I see that in you guys. I'm happy to get involved and see where we can go with it. But I think it just needs a bunch of people who want to get on and do. We established early days our kind of core values and typical marketing thing. Let's kind of do it right, and that's the advice from Detroit as well: is have a board and figure out what you're trying to achieve and have roles. And as was encouragement is the central thing. So other than winning the money, actually the money's not the important thing. It's the encouragement that people get from being involved, because the ideas can be about anything that benefits Worcester. So as was encouragement, sharing, and there's great benefit in just sharing what you're doing and thinking about what the effects of telling other people and having that sharing spirit. And progress is that I just want to get on and do stuff. I don't want to fill in loads of forms. And what really appealed about the idea is that we just need a space that people can come to. We've got a cafe that makes the soup for free. And that's about it. We don't need any money. We just have an excuse to have a conversation. So let's get on with it.
Yeah. And you don't pick event nights when England are playing football?
No, that was Father's Day. You can never avoid something significant, but I guess football's quite significant.
Yeah,
there's always something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And where do you host all your meetings? Or
Do
you have anywhere that you think is it? Like a pub or at somebody's house?
Yeah, so when I started, what was important was to not have a place that had an owner already, because the good thing is that I don't have an alignment to any particular organisation, which people kind of appreciate and want to get involved. It's open enough for people to be involved and there'll be no barrier. So I didn't want to do it at a community centre or a church hall or a council building or any of the usual places. And just going through the process of asking people, we found an old community centre that's an adult daycare centre. So you go into the adult daycare centre down Stanley Road, and it's not the most inspiring place from the outside. It's all kind of bars on the window and things like that. But you go in and it's a huge, great big open space with a stage, and there's graffiti that the Prince's Trust have gone in and done lots of things that help people with dementia and things like that with recognition. So there's Union Jack flags and things that remind them of the war and all that kind of thing. So that's quite cool, and I thought it was a bit alternative. There's a family that run it as a private concern, and they're really cool. So I just went there, and it was a really good atmosphere about the place, and it was big enough because we didn't know how many people would turn up. So we needed enough space.
It wasn't pre-described.
So in Detroit they run it in a warehouse. It used to be a movie studio. When they started it, it was in the warehouse of a bakery, just because one of their friends was there. People sit on the floor, and that's part of getting people involved. Is that it was slightly uncomfortable, but a bit out of the ordinary, and that meant people engaged. So we thought, that's a good place to do it. So it's all armchairs, higgledy-piggledy armchairs all over the place. So we did that. So people think that's a bit weird, but people felt relaxed, And we made use of the stage. So we had 60 singers on the stage, and now they use the stage. They didn't use the stage before. As part of us going in there, as part of it, the performing arts people who were pitching store there, costumes there now. The guy who made my ballot box, which was a guy who was in a youth training scheme thing, had been in prison, getting his life back on track. Made us a wooden treasure chest for the polling. He came along, he presented it to us. He put up the shelves of the Welly Boot library he was pitching, so people started helping themselves on there as well. So we did it there twice. We thought we'd move around, did it at school the third time, which was a bit clinical, I felt. So last time we did it yesterday at the arts workshop. There's a cafe in there called Cafe Bliss, and they'd always been really supportive. They'd heard of Detroit Soup from the beginning and make the soup, and they do that for free, and they're very community minded. So we did it there yesterday, and it was a really good atmosphere. It's great there. They do a thing called Lazy Sunday. Recommend everybody goes along first Sunday.
About that one quite well.
Yeah, that's good. So,
and have you found
so we'll move anywhere, but we don't have. There's no natural.
And have you
place.
found from when you started in September that actually it didn't go exactly where you wanted to go, and actually by setting out these routes it's kind of started to weed its own path, or have you had to steer it back in, or you just kind of letting it see what happens with it?
So the weird way things happen is that I met Amy, who started it in Detroit. So she got flown over by Virgin to do a training course for people on soup, because she speaks at Virgin entrepreneurial events and things like that. So I went to a little workshop she did in London, and then we went out for a beer afterwards and had a chat, and then she ended up coming back in September, and she co-hosted our first event. So that in that adult daycare centre was Amy from Detroit, who started it in Detroit and knows all about it. So
she had no idea when.
So she stayed at my house. She stayed at my house. We went for a beer in Heroes in Town, and she told me all about it. So that was great. Is that I got it from source, and I could check that what I thought it was and what she said it actually was the same thing. And luckily, we're kind of on track. And through the process of the first one to the second one, I've kind of learned that you can't be too precious about the ownership of it. Is that all I have to do is set up the conditions, and then whatever will be will be. And as long as you set the conditions right, then you've allowed people's creative freedom to be involved. And what Amy realised about the warehouse is that it's unfinished. Is that people walk in there and they feel that they can contribute. And I think it's really important that you allow that, and you don't dictate too much. You just got to set the conditions. And kind of in my job, it's kind of part of what I do for a living as well. In a marketing standpoint, you take from an employee engagement, you've got the similar thing around setting the conditions around the vision and the mission, but you've got to empower people to take ownership for themselves. And I think it's the same in Worcester City, is that I see silos of activity, but you need something to join it together, and then some guiding principles or whatever. The Kiln could be part of that. Yeah.
It's really interesting how many parallels what you just said with Joel when he was talking about his artist space and a similar thing, and not being allowed to make his own space.
And people say it to me all the time, and said, I just need some space. I've heard it so many times over the last year, from artists to care ceramics who do pottery with people with disabilities. Everybody just needs some space to do their thing, but there's so much benefit if that thing is with other people and they can benefit from each other. So I saw a thing in Coventry when we were just talking about it, called Fargo Village, which is funded by the developer because they want to raise the profile of the area and make it interesting. There's just an old warehouse that is a load of small units that are really cheap that people can just do their thing in, and it's great. There's little bookshops and artist studios and a cafe and things like that, and I think we kind of lack that. There isn't that place that allows that creative freedom in Worcester. I know there may be, I haven't found it yet. I don't know.
We haven't either.
No. But the thing is, we hadn't spoken a month ago, and I didn't know this was going on, and you didn't know about my thing, and I think it's just part of that uncovering of what's going on. So.
And potential.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I do. Well, I think there's enough people who are talking this game, right?
Yeah.
I think there's enough people who want to want to do something. And for me, my kids are involved in soup now, that they come along and they can see it, and they've seen it from the beginning over the last year. And I think, we're going to start doing soup in schools. So Lottie, who was one of our people who pitched a welly boot library, which is great because she just engaged 150 wellies she's got on loan through Facebook with people. It's like a weird thing, but it's social interaction. But she's a primary school teacher in Dines Green, and she's going to run a soup in Dines Green Primary in September, October, something like that. And I've said to her that we should kind of nail the format for this and share it, because it ticks all the Ofsted boxes, and it's about democracy and teaching them about vote and community. And I'm connected with somebody, the other part of this weird soup thing. There were 3 last year, now 60 in the UK. So, there's 60 cities that are doing this over the last year. When I started, the same week, because it was a BBC article that I saw, somebody from Sheffield would tweet me and say, I started last week as well, and we're all getting together next month. Amy's flying over, and all 60 of us will get together in Impact Hub in Birmingham to share ideas and develop it further. I lost my train of thought.
That sounds awesome.
No, it's cool. But yeah, so I'm connected to one in Australia. I shared my resources with some guys in Ghana who are running a soup. She's been to Tibet to share ideas. BBC flew out there and did a documentary on it. There's one that kicked off in Oslo, Colchester and Bristol when soup tourism. They went to Oslo and joined their first one. So yeah, it's just cool. It's good fun.
Thank you very much. Has anybody got any questions at all?
I've talked a lot.
I think you covered everything. That's a good sign.
Sorry. Next quarter, your next one, is it?
So yes, September, probably beginning of October, something like that. Every quarter. I think it'll be the arts workshop again. So just keep open-minded about it. I did wonder about this place. I kind of came along and thought this would be quite a good venue.
It's a good venue, isn't it? If you let Hamish know, post it on the Kiln website and the events there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And we can speak to Jamie as well when he's back on holiday.
He's back in, and Sarah's back, and the football's not on.
Yeah.
Cool. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.